Okay, welcome back to the bootleg corner movie review hours that it has been for the past few weeks. I don't think I need to announce that anymore. But movie review hours per usual, and this one will be back to Alien Earth, a series streaming right now on FX on Hulu. Is it on FX on Hulu? But a series streaming right now on FX, and I haven't done a review for the past 2 episodes. I think I stopped. I did reviews for episode 1 and 2. I didn't do a review for episode 3, so I'm going to combine that into this video. So this video is about episode 3 and episode 4. Now after episode 3, I had a lot of questions, a lot of things that I wanted to see answered in episode 4, and those things did not still get answered in episode 4, and I came out of episode 4 with even more questions. But let's see how it goes, because we are going to be in for a very, very amazing, fantastic ride for the entirety of this series. And now episode 3 began with Hermit going to find Wendy and meeting the alien xenomorph, and I was confused why the xenomorph did not attack Wendy, because I don't know what is the calibration there, but the xenomorph saw Wendy and just stopped. Maybe the xenomorph is only attracted to like biological creatures and stuff, but he saw Wendy, he sensed that she was not a real human, she did not have any real biological features and stuff, so he just stopped and changed his plan of attack. I don't know why that happened, but I'm thinking this is my theory, and the theory of almost everyone, because she's not human, not a real animal in that sense. That was why the xenomorph stopped in his tracks and changed his tactics. Now the next thing is when Wendy fought the xenomorph, when they were locked inside that safe, I thought, in my opinion, it would have been better to show Wendy fighting the xenomorph. Even if they did not want to show it in full, they could have used flashes, the same way they showed the xenomorph's first kill in this series, when the xenomorph killed that girl who wanted to get into the room when Muro was there. They could have used the same kind of flashes to just give it that type of excitement, to give it that type of, as in just give us something. But they just locked them behind the wall, and when Hermit opened the door, Wendy had already killed the xenomorph, and to me that was a letdown. That was a letdown. I could have used flash. You did not have to show everything, just give me flashes. That was all. But in the end, they did it the way they wanted to do it, and that was just the way it happened. But the next question now is, why did Wendy go into shock or overload or trauma? What actually happened there? Was it something that had to do with biology? Her brain couldn't carry the stress of what she had just done, or the body they gave her couldn't carry the stress of what she had just done? But she went into overload, into shock, or into something. But she just basically shut down at that moment, and I do not know, and they've not told us why or how that happened. Now for Hermit, he lost his, I think he got punctured in the lungs, and he too went down in that same moment. And we now see the full extent of how devious, of how crazy, of how evil the boy Cavalier is, because in the end, taking Wendy and Hermit back to Prodigy to treat them, he ends up stealing Hermit's lungs. In the first place, I was confused a little bit, because I was wondering whose lungs did they take, because I mean, Wendy is not a human anymore. They can't really take her lungs. Then I now saw Hermit waking up doing his surgery. Then I now saw that the lungs were taken out and put in a gas, in a water chamber, or a chamber that you could keep it alive and stuff. I was not like they've stolen someone's lungs, like just like that. And like we often read stories about horror organ transplantation, what do they call it again now? We hear of, I think I saw a story in the past few weeks of being alive when the organs were taken, who were chosen as organ donors and all those stuff like that. But we are seeing it in real time, in real world, with Boy Cavalier forcefully and hideously and selfishly stealing Hermit's lungs to use as practical as an experiment for xenomorph, and they are giving him another lung. I think it's a sort of mechanical lungs to replace the old one. I don't even know if they gave him the old lungs, because I didn't see anything that pointed to that fact. But from the storyline we are seeing right now, they are saying they gave Hermit a new set of lungs. I think those are synthetic or mechanical lungs to replace the one that they had stolen, while lying to Hermit that his lungs were destroyed. And even the boy Cavalier couldn't even hide the cheekiness when he said, I think when he told Hermit that you wouldn't believe what they had done with the lungs. And like that's, you stolen someone's lungs and you are basically just laughing in their face. That's just what it is. You are basically laughing in their face. Now, Moro setting up slightly was something I didn't see coming, but I was wondering why he put his hand on his neck, and they make sure to show us that in detail. So it was obviously a setup for something else. But Moro has found as seen that he has no way to get into the Prodigy compound. So what else if he's not going to use one of their own products to get into this compound? And setting up slightly, he has inveigled himself into slightly's confidence, and we can see slightly, like I said, these guys are kids, so like their brains are like childish brains. So like for Moro, this is easy work. This is a piece of cake. He has gotten totally into slightly's confidence, and even gotten slightly to tell him his real name and the name of his family. And the moment slightly just said that, I just knew that like this was game over. The moment slightly just told him his real name, his real family name, I just knew that was the next tactic Moro was going to use to take over and like change slightly's mind and just control him from the outside. Now this bald guy who is in Cavalier's employ, I don't know what he is, whether he's human or he is synthetic or a robot or whatever, but they haven't really told us anything about his backstory or his inclinations or something. I don't know what he is, whether he's a human or he's a robot, but that's one of those things we'll have to find out later in this series. And this other guy, this guy who's been painting the walls, what is he exactly? Is he a robot? Maybe a failed experiment, they just give wall paint or something. But every time we pass that scene in this series, that hallway, he's always there just spraying paint on the wall. So I don't know, is that a human, is that a robot, or is that something else we haven't really figured out yet? But those are still on some of the questions I have from episode 3. And another thing is, Babu Sisse reminds me, Babu Sisse is the guy who plays Moro in this series. He kind of reminds me of Ragnar. There's a way he talks, with the way his beard is, and like his facial structure. He reminds me of Ragnar Lodbrok from the Viking series, and I think I'm gonna have to even rewatch the Viking series just to see Ragnar's face again and just look at the movie and see exactly what I've missed. But that's another story for another day. But like I said, Babu Sisse kind of, his facial structure, his bone structure, the way his beards are framed, it kind of really remind me of the actor who played Ragnar Lodbrok in the Vikings. Now the last tip from episode 3 is, why can Wendy hear the aliens? They've not told us why or how or when she came to develop that ability, or why the aliens can even speak. They weren't even speaking to her. They were speaking to themselves, but she could pick up snippets, or she can pick up the line of their conversation. So why is she the only one among all the synthetics, right? Among all the synthetics, why is she the only one among all the synthetics who can pick up, who can hear their conversation, who can hear their frequency? What did they actually do to her? Is it a special feature or something that they did by accident or something else? But why is she the only one who can hear the xenomorphs, and what will be the results of her having to do that? Because as you can see, she and them can communicate in episode 4, and if she can communicate to these guys and hear them, and seeing us already in the beginning of episode 3, the xenomorph left her to go after Hermit because she's a synthetic, she's not a human. But if the xenomorph leaves her in the beginning of episode 3, and at the end of episode 3 she can now hear xenomorphs talking to each other, then I think maybe this series does not go the way we think and the way we think it has been planned. But in episode 4 we are seeing these two being married. Like that's one shock from this series. These two have not presented, they have not delivered, they've not even given off any vibes of two of them being married at any point. So I'm surprised, like where did this point come from? Was this a last minute addition or something? Because I don't like when the series even started, I thought she and Kesh were even the ones married. It was now revealed that Kesh is a robot. Then now I'm saying is her and this other guy, and they've not even really communicated seriously for the entirety of this series. So I'm a bit, maybe I missed something I'm not remembering now while talking to you on the camera, but I can't really remember when or where these two had that kind of relationship. Now the synthetic kids, slightly, this kid, the other kids, all of them are now having agendas of their own. Slightly is under the clutches of Moro, who has to do everything Moro says, or else Moro will kill his family, who he foolishly gave up because he thought he had a friend on the outside. This other guy, he wants to rename himself as Isaac Newton. I didn't think Kesh gave him the go-ahead to do that. This red-haired girl, she's having thoughts that she's pregnant. I don't know how that came about or why or what influenced that, but that's just what she is. Then this other dark-haired girl, she wants to take Wendy's position as the number one among the synthetics. And these are 4 kids put into different new bodies in a different environment from what they were used to. And like I said earlier, their brains did not develop at the same pace with their bodies. They are kids in adult bodies in an adult situation, so they are probably going to react to it in different ways. So I don't even know how their development can even come about, since their brains are not a mixture of synthetic and biological human brains. How does the growth even work Will they match? At what stage did their maturity stop? Like, will they just become like, I don't even know what to describe right now. I don't know what or how their lives will be, but seeing as they are spiraling, going in different directions, some of them looking for comfort from outsiders, some of them looking for a sense of identity, some of them looking for more prominence, and this one trying to take on more responsibility by saying she's now pregnant with something. So that's like, they're obviously reacting in different ways. Now, T. Ocelos, the multiple-eyed or multiple-pupilled, multiple tentacled monster, has been given a new host in the form of a ship, and we can see his intelligence beginning to rise steadily, as not even steadily, like it rose immediately as he got a newer, better host. His brainwaves were off the charts. So one thing I'm going to ask now, I know at some point he's going to get a human host. I think everything points to that. But what happens if he gets a synthetic host? Can it really bond with a synthetic? Because I think this is a biological creature. He needs animal synapses and nerves and all that to connect. But if they put it in a synthetic, if he has succeeded in getting into the eyes of this redhead girl, would it have been able to connect, to bond, to like take over her body the way it would have been easier with a fully human or fully animal species, like something like that? So like, something is going to really happen in the next few episodes. Everything is pointing to that, because now we've got a new xenomorph out in the open, taken from Hermit's lungs, that's fully hatched. It has broken out, and we can see Wendy talking to it, and Wendy even petting it, and we know how fast these xenomorphs go. Within 2 days, it has almost become a full life, like adult xenomorph. So like, what is the plan? And now another thing is Kesh. Who is he actually working for? Because he's the only one in this series who seems to have tabs on everything. At least to the best of our knowledge, he's the only one who has been shown to be at least composed and like knowledgeable of what is happening to everybody. He knows what is happening to Slightly. He's seeing that through the monitor, to the camera, and whatever he has is placed in Slightly's body. He knows where he's watching what is happening between Wendy and the xenomorph. Like, he was there when Isaac was requesting a new name. Like, so he's the only one who has his hands in every pot and every pie. And I think Boy Cavalier, once in this series, he told Kesh to assume that he was ahead of him in every situation. So like, does Boy Cavalier know about all these things, or is he only just Kesh that knows what is happening with all these guys? And who is he actually working for? Is he working for Boy Cavalier? Does he have his own personal agenda of his own? Or is he even a spy, like sent out from the outside, as working with Weyland-Yutani or any of the other 3 companies or 4 companies that rule the world? So those are the questions I still have. Who is Kesh working for? What is the next thing for Wendy? Why can't she hear the xenomorphs? What's the next thing for T. Ocelos? Like, there are multiple questions, like nothing has been answered as of this time. And we are still waiting and hoping that these things will be answered in the next episode. Now, as for Hermit, he's a pawn in multiple games. Not really multiple games, but just like few close games, because he's a pawn that Cavalier is using to keep Wendy in check. I think in check here. And he's a pawn on his own because Cavalier was threatening to send him out if he didn't comply and like keep Wendy. So he's like a balancing act. On the one hand, they'll tell Wendy that they'll send him away. On the other hand, they go and tell Hermit that he has to keep Wendy in check. So it's like, 2 of them are like, it's a balancing act between the 2 of them of keeping each other in check, where Wendy is the most expensive and the most important part of the deal. But like, him being there is basically a means to keep Wendy in check on his own side. And Wendy, they are telling her that if she wants to keep her brother, she needs to keep working with the Boy Cavalier closely and telling him everything that she knows. So like, that's the situation between them. And he's also a pawn, not really a pawn, but he's probably going to be a pawn in another game if Slightly, that's Arush, I now know his real name, if Slightly goes ahead with the plan for Moro to get a xenomorph egg into his body. Now, he doesn't know that. Slightly doesn't even know if he can accomplish that, but that's where things are right now. And with Kesh seeing all these things happening, I want to know if Kesh will allow that to happen, if Kesh will allow Moro and Slightly to do that, to get a xenomorph egg out of the Prodigy compound. Because he's been watching all these things and he hasn't really reacted or told anybody so far, except he's been telling them off screen, but we haven't really heard that, we haven't seen that, we don't know if that's happening. Now the next thing is Weyland-Yutani. Are they really going to leave billions of dollars worth of experiments and money and whatever the value of that thing is could be in the future? are they really going to leave that in the hands of Prodigy and in the hands of Moro to recover? Because I don't think you sent, like, I don't know how many billions they spend in space exploration and stuff, lost how many crew members, then this close to Earth, your stuff is just basically by the corner in the Prodigy facility, and they are just basically going to leave it. So I don't know, maybe their money is that long that they can afford to take a few losses here and there, like what's a billion to trillionaires and stuff. So like maybe they have another plan to recover their stuff, or maybe Moro is the only plan. Or maybe they are waiting for Moro to see how he does, because they've given Moro a few days. They didn't even give me a few days, but Moro took a few days. Moro took the days and said he'll recover it by himself. But I don't know what their plan is. Are they really going to leave Moro to do it, or do they have a backup plan that they're going to send into the Prodigy compounds to retrieve their experiment? Another thing I want to say is, when do we get the full blown out chaos? Because I think we are progressing very rapidly towards that. We are progressing very rapidly. When do we get the full blown chaos? Do they wait until the finale of the season to do a cliffhanger, like to lead us into the next season? Or will that be coming episode by episode? Or maybe in one episode they just let everything loose and everything becomes a wild hunt and stuff like that. But with the way things are progressing in this series, I think we are not very far from that. We are not very far from that. This is still the Bootleg on the Bootleg Corner. This is still a reminder to watch Alien Earth. If you can't do that, you can also follow me and see me reviewing and talking about this series. Still the Bootleg on the Bootleg Corner. Don't forget to subscribe, to like, to follow, to share, and all that stuff. Keep it locked in, and I'll be back.